Welcome to a special Stuart Victoria steam engine part 1. This exceptionally well built Stuart Victoria is in very good mechanical condition. All I need to do for now is remove it from the baseboard and carefully give it a good clean. The age-related patina is perfect, so I do not need to repaint it. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this rather ugly mounting plate which the boiler sat on. And immediately it is top tip time. I've misplaced my socket screwdriver handle. I have to improvise. I'm using a screwdriver in the socket which turns it fine. Initially the bolts didn't come out because they're actually sunk into the baseboard underneath. I'll show how I got around this shortly. Firstly though, I want to show you some really good things about this steam plant, apart from the engine. The water tank. It's not very ornamental, but it is extremely well made. The hinged hatch at the top isn't for filling it. It's so you can see how much water is being returned to the tank from the crankshaft-driven pump. On the downside, it's not very ornate and it just plugs into the baseboard, but the main thing is it's extremely well made inside. Just look at this, it's well above and beyond the call of duty, beautifully made. Once the tank was out of the way, I could turn the engine upside down and very carefully rest it on the bench, because I need to remove the screws that fasten down the mahogany base of the engine to this really bad baseboard. The builder of this engine really knew his stuff, but I'm not too impressed with the woodwork. If I'd built an engine to this standard, I would have had a really expensive mahogany baseboard made for it. It was a bit of a shock when the engine parted company with the baseboard. I didn't expect this to be underneath. Mechanically it is excellent, but it's a bit over the top for what it's doing, and the amount of woodwork that you have to do to sink this into a mahogany baseboard is not really something that I want to do. I think it's a bit of overkill anyway. I do like this though. Notice that the bucket is still stuck to the baseboard. That's because it's on a bayonet fitting. You have to rotate it to remove it. This bucket is designed to catch what comes out of the cylinder drains, steam, oil and water. And here is the fitting screwed to the baseboard that locates underneath the bucket. I will remove this from the baseboard shortly. First of all though, I need to remove all the water piping. This will need possibly remaking, although I may be able to use some of it and reroute it to the new position for the water tank. This piping is quite small. The threads are 3/16 by 40. It obviously works. Personally, I would have used larger bore piping. But then again, I do not have the eye for scale that the builder of this engine had. This is the best example of a Stuart Victoria that I've personally ever seen. Once I removed the piping from the engine, I went back to the baseboard and removed the bucket fitting. And now I'm going to remove the metal plate. You may be wondering, what is the purpose of this elevated metal plate? Well, it's a heat sink to protect the baseboard from the heat of the gas burner underneath the boiler. And to remove it, I had to use a screwdriver underneath to keep the nuts in position while I removed the bolts with my socket. As usual, a couple of nuts fell on the floor, but I rescued them using my telescopic magnet, my magnet on a stick. Looking at the baseboard, you can see how it's been scorched by the heat, even with the heatsink above it. This was a bit of a surprise. The baseboard's been cut away to accommodate the rather thick piece of metal which holds the pedestal in the correct position relative to the main engine. When I mount the engine on a new baseboard, I'm not going to use this principle. I think it will be okay, just screwed and bolted down to a substantial baseboard. Now it's time to use my weapon of choice for cleaning this engine, and that is WD-40, which is sprayed onto the grease and grime. And after waiting a while for the WD-40 to dissolve the grease, I clean the engine thoroughly using a toothbrush and various other things. I think it's fairly pointless at this stage continuing the narration. You can see clearly what I'm doing, nothing difficult, just cleaning an engine and getting rid of all the filth. So instead of speaking, I'm going to use one of my compositions which is called The Years of Grime, a very apt title. And on that note, I'd just like to say stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.